the Bible says in Proverbs 22:7 that the rich ruleth the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Someone might say, what significance does that have? Well, it's God's will for you to be wealthy. 3 John verse 2 says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul doeth prosper. In fact, Proverbs chapter 10 verse 22 says, The blessing of the Lord maketh rich, and addeth no sorrow with it. My name is Charles Vance, and I'm along with Terry Saka today on the Wealth Transfer. We're glad you're along today. Terry?
Charles.
Good to see you today.
Good to see you too. Welcome everyone to the Wealth Transfer. We're looking forward to getting into the meat of what's going on out there. And as Charles just stated, as far as God wanting you to be wealthy. Remember now, he says, I take pleasure in the prosperity of my servant. He says, those that love me, I will make wealthy and fill their treasury. But it's not so that we're all going to eat prime rib, of course. It's so that we can help the kingdom. It's so that we can help feed the poor and save the lost. And being part of the wealth transfer, I think, is absolutely essential for us as Christians, so we can be in place to be able to do what God needs to get done down here.
My wife has said it for years, probably thousands of times. We are blessed to be a blessing. And certainly God wants us to be blessed in the meantime.
Yes.
Jesus said it would be pressed down, shaken together, and running over. That means you got more than you can use. That's where God wants us to be. He really wants us there.
Yeah,
it's His desire.
That's Luke in 6:38.
Yep.
And in Luke 6:38, just above that, he was talking about forgiveness. But Luke 6:38 transitions into its own subject from 37. And when he said that, the word "give" in the Greek literally means bestow a gift upon. Just look at the translation for yourself, but it's very important.
Something else interesting in the Greek is it's in the present tense in the Greek, which
Present
means
tense.
that you do it all the time, that it's present. So we need to get in a lifestyle, habitual lifestyle of being givers. And when we do, Jesus said, that was Jesus talking, by the way, he said it would be given unto us, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, men shall give into our bosom. The bosom was referring to them picking their garment up and making a basket or in their bosom and being able to carry things. He said it would be shaken together and running over. So we wouldn't have enough room to carry it all, is what he's saying. So it would be an overflow blessing. But God really wants you to get there. Terry, there's a lot of folks in the church world. I pastor a church and we do a national ministry, and there's a lot of folks in international ministry. A lot of folks have been so trained by religious people to think that they're not supposed to have anything. But it is God's will for you to be wealthy. Listen, God created Adam and Eve in the beginning, told them to take dominion over everything that He created. Subjugate, make things subject to them. Everything that was on the earth. Psalm chapter 8 said He gave them dominion over all the works of His hands. How do we do that? I read it to you to open the program. The rich ruleth the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. You know yourself, if you're in debt head over heels, that you're servant to those who have lended to you. Everything you work for, where does it go? You know where it goes. But the lender is the one that's in control. He dictates to you what you do. He dictates to you how much you have to work to pay him back. If we take the position that God created us for, rise up in it and learn that it's God's will for us to be wealthy. Now, most people would like to be wealthy. Many people don't know how to be. And today we're going to talk about some things that are going on in the economy.
We're getting back to it.
It's really going to open our eyes.
Yeah, we're getting back to some of the meat that's really important for people to understand. This is going to be Currency Wars Part 2. And we're going to show some really intense pieces of graphic charting and material that you can visually see, folks, for yourself. You could, listen to us, but wait till you see what I'm going to show you. This is absolute proof of what we're saying. Now, the currency war is very real. And remember, when we're talking about giving and we're talking about bestowing gifts upon, remember, we're not asking for ourselves here. If you notice, we don't ask for tithes and offerings into this ministry whatsoever. This program is not designed for that. This program is here for information only. We're talking about giving to our neighbors and our family and to one another, loving on one another, because this currency war that's coming is incredibly real, and it's going to impact everything we have, impact your savings, impact your retirement, and it's going to be something everybody's going to want to be a part of understanding. So remember, just before we get going here, for those that have retirement accounts or assets to protect and preserve, if you would like free information, you can log on to the website. You can call the phone number there. We will send you a package of information containing all this type of information and documentation that'll show you how you can make decisions for yourself. It'll help guide you along that. Just register. It's a free guide for those that have assets to protect. We'll be more than happy to send you the information.
Terry, you've been talking about since
specifically for your IRAs and 401ks, because that's where the bulk of savings are, by the way.
Yes, it is. And you've been talking about currency wars. And it's almost like you got dollars standing up here shooting against each other or something. And I'm not sure that the majority of people that are listening to us today understand what you're talking about when you're talking about currency wars.
Yeah, and it's really important that we do know it, because the currency war, meaning every country prints its own money. And what happens is it's about supply, demand, but it's about import and export. And so we need to win the import-export war. So let me just start by showing some of these charts here and try to grab onto the visual here, because currency war really means one nation is at war with another nation in the value of their currency. So if United States currency is too expensive and we make a bicycle, that bicycle, let's say, costs $400. Well, China's currency is cheaper, so they can make the same bicycle for $200. Who would you buy the bike from? China. So the war is to get your currency low enough so people buy goods from you, and it's a battle that's global. And we're not the only ones doing it, by the way. Japan, Europe, everyone's involved. The debasement and devalue of money worldwide is epidemic, folks. So you better grab on to the visuals that you're going to see here.
No, Terry, people are doing that. These countries are doing that so that, and I want people to understand this, to be clear on this, because I had a little trouble understanding this in the beginning. So let's say you're China, I'm America. If I have a set amount of currency, a stack of currency this big, you have a stack of currency that is this big, your currency has less value compared to my currency because you have more of it.
That's right.
Because you've printed more.
That's right.
You don't necessarily have any more assets. You've just printed more money. So you have more paper currency.
Yes.
So the war is, if I print more currency, then my currency is going to value about what your currency values if I get my stack as high as your stack.
Yes.
But to the individual in our country, that makes their currency less money or less valuable to them.
And that's why gas used to cost 10 cents a gallon, and now it's 4.
Okay.
That's why food and everything. So, folks, the important part of this is understanding that. A lot of people think, oh, that's just part of time and inflation. No, it's not. This is very important for those that have worked your lifetime to save. So let's start now we've heard this in the news. So let's just start with this first image I want to show you, number 1, which is called the sequester. Now, folks, if you see that sequester number there, the yellow line is our budget. We as the United States spend about almost $4 trillion a year. The red line is our deficit. That's how much we have to print and borrow every year because we don't make enough money in tax revenue. The little tiny green line right there, that's enough for this chart. The little tiny green line, you see how small it is? That little green line was all they were talking about when they said across-the-board budget cuts in Washington. And our president and everyone was coming out, it'll be doomsday. People will starve, the programs are going to shut down, airplanes will crash, lines will be terrible at airports. It's ridiculous. That green line was barely, you see, enough to even affect anything in the government, and they couldn't even cut that. They're not going to cut the budget, folks, because they want to spend money and print money in order to engage in this war that we have with China. So just understand, we're going to keep printing, and those lines are going to keep getting more dramatic. And as you see coming here in some of these next images, you're going to be shocked at what you see. So get ready. and go to the website if you need to review this video down the road. Pass it to your friends. This is going to be a very important subject because it has been going on. I'm not just saying it, but I'm going to show you and prove to you because you need to be part of this wealth transfer. Because as Charles said, the servant is slave to the lender.
Absolutely.
And the government is gaining a tremendous amount of control as we lose the value of our assets and we depend more on the government for survival.
So let me stop here and let me jump in for a minute. How do we do that? How do we protect our assets if the majority of folks have money that's just printed currency because they're devaluing our printed currency or the stock market? And it looks like the stock market's taken a leap up.
Well, and really be careful of that because remember the stock market's in paper. It's in currency.
So it's not real.
Not real, and it's smoke. It's a lot of printed money going through the banks. It's not the average individual. And we're going to get on in the next few programs, folks. You're going to really want to get into this because we have currency wars. We're going to get into real deeper definitions of deflation, inflation, hyperinflation. And then we're also going to get into some intricacies of the real numbers of the United States economy as well as the European economy. So
but there has to be a way, though, for us, or we're hoping. I mean, this program is on for a reason. There has to be a way for us to protect. Instead of having a stack of cash at home in the safe, if that's what we have. And you and I have talked about this in the past. And by the way, this program is on at the same time every weekday on this station, or every week rather. It's on at the same time. It's on at this time next week, same time. So you can just check. And also, you have these on your website, right?
Yeah, they're on the website under media. And
Okay.
so it's important to do that. But I see where you're going with that. That's important because
I don't just want to keep stacking these up.
You're right.
If they're going to print more of them and make them less and less
if the world
valuable.
is going to print their paper, the people of the world who are smart enough to pay attention are shifting into harder assets. It's not just America. This is Europe's, the Asian Rim, Middle Eastern, Japan, the people who are doing this now. Chinese and Indians are huge on hoarding silver, gold, and other hard tangible assets, land, food. But, these land and food and the bigger things of the earth that God gave us dominion over, it's not so easy for us to store up. I mean, what do? Fill up a swimming pool with gasoline? Mm-hmm. So gold and silver has become, even though that is, if you remember, the definition of dollar is grains of silver. They just have taken it out of the dollar, so the paper dollar doesn't mean anything anymore. Silver is money. It's just liquid. It can be bought and sold, and it's a hedge. So as the dollar value goes down, silver and gold go up. And don't be kidding yourself for nothing. The gold and silver is going a lot higher. They're just wanting it to go slower.
No, it has to do that. And again, I want to jump in. It has to do that because they continue to print everything that is a tangible asset is going to continue to go higher.
Yeah, they're printing $85 billion a month. So
gasoline's going to go higher. Food's going to go higher.
Yes.
But it's simply because those things are tangible. And when we say they're going to go higher, I think people have a misconception of that. And I want people to understand this, that they still have the same value. Listen, a bowl of cereal still has the same value to me.
Yes.
It does the same thing to my body every day.
Gasoline into your car is doing the same thing.
The same thing. It takes me the same distance in my car, even if it increases, if it costs more. Actually, what's happening is the value of the dollar is going down because they're printing more. It's like taking a piece of pie and cutting more slices out of it.
Yes.
There's nothing more there to cut, so they keep making it worth less and less, or a smaller sliver of it, and our dollars are just buying less.
And don't be fooled. I mean, recently the dollar had a run upward in value, and the stock market's running, and yet gasoline's going through the roof, and other costs are going up. And we're going to explain in the future here in a couple of programs, we're going to actually show you images of the velocity of money and why not only inflation, but hyperinflation is very close to being extremely real. So that'll be in later programs. But today we want to continue in these currency wars. let's get into showing you some more graphics, because the currency war is going to be so essential to those folks that are needing to protect and preserve your assets in retirement, specifically IRAs and 401ks. You can roll them over into precious metal, physical, hard asset vehicles at virtually no cost, and then you transfer it from the paper to a hard asset. So in long term, you store your retirement in silver, gold, or other hard assets. If you do have those type of assets to protect, just log on to our website or call. We'll send you this package. It's free information, but it'll be filled with information detailing graphs, charts, and so forth to help you make decisions on that kind of stuff.
Terry, let me ask you one more question, because I've heard people advertising on radio and television that people can buy gold and silver stock.
Yes.
Now, what do you do when you buy stock
You
in
know
gold
what?
and
Yeah,
silver?
that is completely separate.
It's like going to the stock market again,
Yes.
isn't it?
Be careful, folks, because hard assets are not paper and stock. Hard assets are not ETFs. They're not the market system. I'm talking hard, real, physical assets that go in a vault for you, or you buy and have sent home. Owning land that you can stand on. Owning a wheat field, a corn field that you can plow, or gold and silver that you can buy and sell in exchange. Those are real hard assets. Be very cautious, folks, of that stock market. Very, very cautious. I want to show you now, here's the beginning of this, okay? This is the currency war, and we're going to go through a sequence of charts and images here rather quick, but I want you to grab this because it is very, very impacting, and I think it'll really say a lot of what we're saying here. We're going to go to image number 2. And since 9/11, look right there, the 9/11 strike happened, and look at the escalation of United States debt, skyrocketing straight up. And if many of you remember back about hyperinflation, that same chart in Germany, but look at that debt skyrocket, literally double since 9/11. We can take that image off. And remember, folks, that debt goes to the bottom line of the value of your savings in retirement. Don't think it won't impact it in the long run. Now we have that debt accruing, and one of the reasons we're in this currency war is other countries are printing money and debasing their currency value. Ours is high. We need to lower ours because we can't trade goods and services worldwide. Our money is too expensive. We go to image number 3. This is the United States trade deficit. That is a negative number, folks. It's all going down. And if you see there around 2008, it really was down around actually 2004 through 8. That's because we were actually printing a lot of money. And so as we started printing money, or we weren't printing enough money, I'm sorry, and then our balance was down. You can take that image off, but, oh wait, no, put that image back up. I want to show something. When you see how that image was down, you see at the very bottom, that's because our currency was too valuable. It has started running back up from the crash. And then you see how it shot up and the line gets shorter? That's because we started printing a lot of money, debasing our currency, and of course made our goods more valuable. And then of course, look at it drop back down again. That's because other countries started printing their money, and now all those bars, folks, show it's a deficit to our trade. We import more. We can take that graph off, but we import more goods than we sell. That's why we're having a hard time with jobs. That's why our economy is not nearly as strong as it should be. We can't export goods because our currency is too expensive.
Terry, who's manipulating this international currency war?
Every central bank in the world.
So the banks are doing it.
Absolutely. The central banks now. The central bank of each country.
Right. Not your local branch bank.
No.
The central banks that actually control, have the money printed, put
Yes.
it in circulation.
Yes. Matter of fact, it's been such an issue for the country of Japan. Japan has had such a problem with deflation and prices going down for like 10 years. They just came out and started printing like crazy. And what has happened is their currency's gone down so much because of it. More goods are being exported and their economy's picking up.
So this focus on this from these banks, from the international banks, is a World Bank system.
A World Bank system.
That works together.
Well, they're working together and against each other.
Right.
And for their own purpose.
Sure.
And don't think for a second that 1.3 billion Chinese are not looking out for themselves. We're only a few hundred million people. And you think the Chinese are not looking out for themselves? You're kidding. Look at the next chart now. Number 4. Now this one's huge. Look at this chart. That is the Chinese money supply. In the last 10 years, they've printed from $10 trillion to $90 trillion. Folks, that is China's printing. That is why they're keeping their currency so low. So as China's keeping their currency so much down, lower than ours, we are forced to print. But what does that mean to you? As we keep printing, your assets, your retirement accounts are going to lose tremendous purchasing power. You won't be able to retire like you think, eat like you want, travel like you want, help your grandchildren like you want. That was a staggering image. $10 trillion to $90 trillion in 10 years. China's determined to keep their currency down, and that is the direct evidence of a currency war, folks.
And it keeps money from around the world flowing into their system.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's the whole idea.
That's the whole idea, because now hard currencies are flowing into China because of it, and that's why China's economy is booming the way it is. So now let's go into, here's why. This is so important. They're printing their money to keep it down, but they're angling. They're becoming angling to become a world currency as reserve status, which will replace the dollar one day. This is what they're trying to do.
Explain that. Explain that for the layman.
This is so important. I mean, right now, the world uses the dollar as a reserve currency, especially for crude oil. And so every country in the world has to have dollars in their bank in order to do transactions, to buy and sell goods and services with one another. They buy dollars and do the exchange, especially for crude oil. If we lose world reserve currency status, don't think we can't. We got it in World War II. England had it for 150 years before that. So don't think the United States dollar can't lose its status. If that happens, folks, I'm telling you, we will lose half of our value, and your retirement gets wiped out.
Now, we've had a degrading internationally of our credit rating just lately.
As a matter of fact, that may actually happen again, yes. And so China's gaming for the reserve status. Now, we don't know when that's going to happen, but don't think they're not. England in London, matter of fact, they just put in position to now run the run the currency for China. Don't think the Chinese yuan's not rising in status. Not value, but status. And here's how they're going to do it. They have to have an asset back to that currency in order to have the meat in order to say I could be a reserve currency. Normally,
so
it was
there has to be something there. There has to be some product or something. There has to be something
normally it was a superior military. Typically, was a reserve currency, and that's how we took it after World War II, of course. China's already building military, and don't think if they need to do something, they got hundreds of millions of service members. So they're setting up. But if you go to the next chart, number 5, this is why I know they're gaming. See that currency war number 3? See, since 9/11? That's China's gold reserve, folks. Okay, we can take that image off. You see how quick that went up? When China gets 4,000 tons of gold, they have the balance to be equal to the dollar as a reserve currency. Right now, I bet they have about 2,000 tons, I think more. They're going to be at 4,000 tons quicker than you think, because the military, the Red Army of China, is directly involved in the acquisition of physical gold. If you don't think so, folks, the central banks are printing money out the front, and in the back, they're bringing in gold worldwide. China's people are, India's people are. Why are we not? And I'm not a fan of gold. I'm a fan of silver for many reasons, but that's the one I would choose because
the U.S. government has actually been known to sell off their gold reserves.
Well, they're not this time. They're not this time because they need it.
But they have in the past.
They have in the past, and that's why people are a little apprehensive with gold, but it's silver that they have to pay attention to. Now, look at this number 6, and this is number 6 here is why I believe China, and we can just put that up, whose sole purpose is to destroy the dollar, the economy, and our wealth. You can take that off, but I want you to see that because, folks, this is real. This is what currency war is about. China's going for the world system. They want to dominate, and don't think they're not trying. And it's not going to be a war as in bombs. It's going to be a war financially. Your wealth, your retirement's the one that's at risk.
No, that doesn't make them evil people.
No,
it does is makes them very, very smart business people.
Hey, they got 1.3 billion people to protect. That's what they're doing. They don't care about American people. They care about their own people. Now, they're communists, and they don't. That's a debate whether they care about their people or not. But, you know. Now, let me do this real quick because we don't have a whole lot of time. And I know this, we'll continue to go back to this subject, I know, folks. But here's the consequence to this currency war in that chart I showed you about China's currency. Your savings, your retirement, look at that dollar dropping. It's not going back up. It's going to keep going lower. They're just doing it slowly. And the consequence of that dollar dropping, chart number 8, as that dollar drops, look at what happens. Crude oil prices go up. The next chart, as the dollar drops, food prices go up. You see that? Folks, your retirement money will not buy the same thing. Right now, we're experiencing high prices. Wait until you see high prices in the next 3 to 5 years. The only way that you can protect yourself, preserve everything you've worked hard for, is to have tangible assets. Tangible assets, the best one really is like silver because it's money, it's a finite supply, high demand industrially, and you can buy and sell it as liquid. You can store it in your IRAs. Virtually almost just a small transfer cost from your current IRA. So if you have IRAs sitting in the stock market or bond market, you can transfer into a physical IRA, virtually no cost, and actually save your retirement in a hard asset. And if you want to do that, we do have information we'll just send you. If you have assets to protect, go to the website, register, or give us a call. We'll send you this package of charts and information so you can best educate yourself for how to make these decisions on hedging, diversifying, and protecting your assets, because this war is just getting hot.
Terry, your company, Cornerstone Asset Metals, you're actually the owner of the company, and somebody can talk with either you or someone that's a real person there at the company.
Oh, they're wonderful people.
And ask questions, and you can answer questions for them.
Yes, absolutely. That's really...
And there's no obligation.
No obligation, but we're here to answer questions because people have questions about how to do things. We're here to answer questions and give you information so you can make choices. Listen, it's not about coming to Cornerstone to get silver or to get gold. Get it anywhere. Just get some to protect yourself.
Make sure that you join us next week.
We're going to talk about IRAs directly next week.
Right here on the Wealth Transfer.